Finally, after all these months, it is finally here. All 26 PIXAR movies ranked from worst to best. As PIXAR fans ourselves, we are glad to talk about its classic era, but at the same time, scared to talk about its modern era. Regardless, this is gonna be one massive video. So me and my brother will take this on. Is everyone ready? Let's discuss the rules. We're first going to start off by going in chronological order and just doing a review on them. And then later on in the video, we'll rank them all. Timestamps are in the description whether you want to get a specific movie or to the ranking itself. Pretty simple. And hey, if you have any favorite or least favorite that you agree or disagree with me with, let me know in the comments. I love to hear your opinions. Anyway, it's time we begin the video. In 3, 2, 1, begin. Let's go all the way back to 1995 with the first Toy Story. This movie's still a classic after all these years. At the time, this movie was impressive. It was the first time we fully got to see CG animation as a movie. No one had ever saw it before, but PIXAR, they were ready to find their footing in the animation industry. A cult classic that is still funny and charming after all these years later. What can I say that hasn't already been said? Its beautiful moral and its characters. We have timeless characters like the jerk Woody, Buzz, who was just Buzz, and basically everyone else. I could go on all day on how much of a cult classic this movie is. And let it be known that jerk protagonists can work. Keep that in mind. Now it's time we discuss the plot. The plot is simple. Woody, who is a Sheriff toy doll, is Andy's favorite toy until one day during one of Andy's birthdays, he gets a brand new Buzz Lightyear toy which he loves even more than Woody. Woody gets jealous and then tries to kill him, and so everyone else thinks that he actually tried to kill him, but I guess he kinda did. Hey, this movie ain't perfect. It's great, but no movie is perfect. And then they end up lost, and then they work together to get home, and they soar through the sky. This movie is still brilliant. It's going right at the top of the list. I can't wait to see our next movie. Eh? Wow, the second movie on this list, and we've already reached mediocre territory. Yeah, we never watched A Bug's Life as kids. I don't think we really even had access to it because we watched these movies before Disney Plus was a thing. But you know what? I'm glad we skipped out on it. This movie's just not very good. It's really mediocre, to be honest. The plot is Flick is an inventor. However, his fellow ants just don't like him because he messes up. Well, maybe he wouldn't mess up if he felt more inclusive, but you see, we gotta have conflict, so we gotta make the ant colony the most unlikable people on the planet, and we're supposed to like them. But Flick ends up messing up with the food, so the villain Hopper gets angry and he threatens the other ants, so Flick decides to go to the big city to get some heroes, but turns out they're circus bugs. And then cue the light reveal trope, which is overdone and never good. And then they make a bird, but then yeah, they're revealed to be circus bugs. The ant colony is still unlikable because they saved your daughter from a giant bird and you're still just saying screw you? You guys are like all unlikable. Like, the story is just nothing special. The characters are just extremely stereotypical or unlikable. Like, you got generic funny circus bugs, generic character who gets shunned by his fellow peers, generic optimistic kid, and everyone else is just unlikable. Like, I don't like these characters because you're not giving me a good reason to like them. The animation, it's fine, but it's noticeably worse than Toy Story. The character designs are nothing special. However, one thing I can give this movie is the villain. Hopper is really good due to his unique presence. Because the only reason he acts intimidating is because he's aware that the ants can take him on. That's a neat idea. Just wish he was in the movie more. His death scene is terrifying, but yep, it's really mediocre. Never gonna watch it again. Toy Story 2 is the greatest movie ever. It proves sequels can be not just as good, but better than the original. It does everything a perfect sequel should do. Expand the world, give our characters new struggles, make the plots have some sort of sense. Heck, this plot makes beyond all the sense. This movie is amazing. Let's start with the amazing plot. So Toy Story 2, of course, being a sequel, takes right after the first movie. So Woody's planning to go to cowboy camp with Andy until Andy accidentally breaks him and he's forced to leave him behind. And then eventually Woody tries to save Wheezy, rest in peace, and then gets kidnapped by Al. And so Buzz and his friends go on a journey to save him. Meanwhile, with Woody, he meets up with Jesse, the Prospector, and Bullseye, also known as the Roundup Gang. And Woody sees all this merch, and because of all this, Woody doesn't feel like going back to Andy, just knowing that he'll probably abandon him until Buzz teaches the lesson that sometimes life's only worth living if you're being loved by a kid. And one song number later, Woody decides to go back to Andy, and then the Prospector reveals that he's a twist villain. And so Buzz go on an adventure to save Woody again, and then they meet up with Zurg, which he is much better than he was in Lightyear, and also has that one Star Wars line, if you know, you know. And so they rescue Jesse and everyone, and then they leave the Prospector to be drawn on, and they gain new comrades for the years to come. It is the greatest movie ever. Its characters, its plot, everything a good sequel should do. The animation is still fun to look at, even after all these years later. It is going at the top of the list, and it is staying. Definitely go watch this movie, just please. It is amazing. Just go play it. Play it. Just go watch it. Play the movie and go watch it. Please go watch it. So many times, and Monsters Inc. still probably the funniest Pixar movie to this very day. At least ironically. Well, unironically. So, the plot is actually kind of interesting. You know those like old stories about monsters in your closet? What if that closet was a portal to the monster world, where monsters have their own civilization, and they just use children's screams for power? So what? Like, you thought they scared you for no reason? No, they're just trying to make a living off of it. And the two best employees at Monsters Incorporated, Mike and Sully, end up letting a kid, who they named Boo, loose into the monster world, and they just try to get her back. There's not much to the plot, but it's really good. And just like Toy Story 2, it actually features a villain before actually revealing the twist villain. This time it's Randall, who's great. Fun fact, as a kid, I never really knew he was a villain. Just kind of thought he was there, mainly because Water News was the twist villain. I was a stupid kid. But yeah, the humor, just timeless. Timeless. John Goodman and Billy Crystal easily give flawless performances. Like the writing, the jokes, the settings, it's cool. Maybe if I had one flaw, it's ironically the animation. Now, don't get me wrong, it looks great, but it feels a little too glossy, is how I would put it. Like, it looks too, like, the characters have a little too much shine to them, to the point where it definitely shows that the animation is a bit dated. I would actually say more dated than Toy Story 2, but yeah, going above a Bug's Life but below Toy Story. Finding Nemo is a good movie. Not amazing, but not really horrible. It's just a good movie. Let's start with the plot. The plot is Marlin and his wife Cole, who dies later in this movie along with the children, and then Marlin gets depressed, but then figures out that one child is still alive. And then we meet Nemo, who is a hyperactive child who doesn't want to listen to his dad. And this actually kind of works. Remember this. But then Nemo disobeys his father because he doesn't want him to swim in open water, and then he touches the butt. I probably shouldn't be saying that, but whatever. And then Nemo gets kidnapped, and Marlin goes on a journey to find him, and meets up with a mentally disabled fish named Dory who can't remember anything. Meanwhile, Nemo is in the fish tank, and I don't really care about the fish tank characters too much. They're not horrible, I just don't really care about them all that much. Like, yeah, this movie's pretty good. It's not amazing, but we would watch it occasionally. It's going above Bug's Life but below Monsters Inc. It's just a good movie. You should go watch it. Oh man, you were all waiting for this one. Like, almost over 10 minutes into the video. The Incredibles. The title says it all. This movie is incredible. So, the plot. Well, we actually start with the prologue, and I'll be mentioning that. The prologue starts with Mr. Incredible, who's enjoying superhero life until supers are made illegal. But 15 years later, he's married to Helen, aka Elastigirl, and they have 3 kids: Dash, Violet, and Jack. But also Frozo's here too. He's a cool guy. See what I did there? Anyways, Mr. Incredible gets informed about this super secret superhero agency where he can do hero work undercover. And obviously he doesn't tell his family about this, and then he goes there, and then realizes it's a trap, and we get the best villain in any of these movies, Syndrome. He just strikes that balance between menacing and just a freaking geek. Like, this dude is hilarious. And then Alan and the rest of the family decide to go save him, and then they beat up the bad guys and the world is saved. Except they do lose their house, but more on that in the sequel. Yeah, I agree, this movie is timeless. The writing, Brad Bird, listen to me, buddy. You are a genius. It just feels like an adult movie with animation in it. They're like, our animation's always for kids. Go watch this movie. It's a kids movie that feels like it's for adults. Almost everything's perfect. This should be better than Toy Story 2. It does have one flaw though, and it kind of breaks the experience a bit. The animation. What is it with Pixar movies and not having the greatest animation in the earlier days? Yeah, the models have shown their age. Like, multiple moments, there's just so many frames where they just look uncanny. And also the backgrounds are just filled with too many grays. It just, like the backgrounds, they just feel like a tech demo. But one impressive feat about the animation is that all the characters were made from the same model. I obviously figured this out with Dash and Syndrome. Like, I would say it's mostly noticeable there. Just compare the two. They look the same. But outside of the animation, yeah, it's perfect. It's perfect. Nothing in this movie is pointless. Just go watch it. Cars. The black sheep of the PIXAR saga. Do I hate this movie like everyone else? No! I actually think it's one of my favorites. Yeah, that's right, I said it. I love this movie. I absolutely love it. I watched it again and again and again and again. And I do not care that this was made for toys and merch. I don't care, because guess what? The movie is good anyways. Let's start with the plot. A hot-shot, full of himself rookie race car named Lightning McQueen, voiced by Owen Wilson. Just like Tim Allen and Tom Hanks, he's a brilliant voice actor. You cannot not love Owen Wilson's performance. Okay, so later on, he chick kicks. I love you, chick kicks, and the king all have to go to California for a race until Lightning McQueen eventually gets lost and ends up in this run-down, broken town named Radiator Springs, where he meets the notorious Mater, voiced by Larry the Cable Guy, and Doug Hudson, voiced by Paul Newman. Throughout the entirety of the movie, McQueen, he desperately wants to get out of the town, but during the course of his arc, he starts to change and learn the errors of his ways, knowing that he's been selfish all along. By the end of it all, he does make it to the race, but now he's a good guy, and we start rooting for him. Yeah, but then he gives up his win just to help a fellow racer in need. The plot is simple, but in the end, that's what makes it so sweet. And the characters, I actually don't hate them. They don't get too much screen time for Lightning McQueen, and you can relate to their struggles during their backstory. And everyone says this movie's bad just because it's for merch. And it wasn't until the sequel where everyone says that this world doesn't make sense. They at least tried to make the universe make sense in this movie. And like, everything, like a good majority of these Pixar movies, it has all these little moments where we realize, oh, so that's why this happens, or oh, I never noticed that. The more you watch this movie, the more you're a little more grateful for it. Also, the animation is really impressive. A massive step up from Incredibles. Sorry. Overall, I think Cars is a really, really good movie. It is going above Finding Nemo, but below Monsters, Inc. Alright, from one hot take to the next. If you thought us liking Cars was an unpopular opinion, here's another one. Ratatouille is not a masterpiece. Now, hold on, it's a good movie, but that's it. It's, like, ironically, it's done by Brad Bird, but The Incredibles is just a better movie. And the thing is, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because I never really grew up with this movie. Maybe it's because my dumb little brain can't take its genius done by Brad Bird. I don't know. Well, anyways, the plot stars Remy. He's a rat who wants to cook, but he can't because he's a rat. And then wacky shenanigans happen. And then he gets separated from his family. He ends up at Gusto's, which this guy died from heartbreak. And yep, he's just kind of chilling in the kitchen. Kind of forgets his family. Good. I don't really like the rat stuff much. Like, Linguini is just a great character. He's just so wimpy. But once he just starts to succeed, he's just this heartless critic named Ego. He's like, how could it be? And then he's like, yeah, I'm gonna try food. It's probably gonna suck. He's like, And Greeny just calls him fat because, you know, he's drunk by the villain. It was great, although he doesn't do too much to the plot. And then the critic, Ego, he likes the food and he gives a speech, which I actually really love. Yeah, it's the plot, but it's not perfect. Remy barely talks in the movie, which on paper should be really good because you could have facial expressions, which are good, but you just kind of miss his voice. Like, once he starts talking, it just gets jarring. The rest stuff is honestly not too much, even if it does kind of pay off. And probably my biggest flaw, we spend way too much time in the kitchen to the point where it kind of gets repetitive. And I don't know what it is. It's just, I didn't like it as every other movie. It's still better than Finding Nemo, though. And here's another hot take. We still think Cars is better than WALL-E! Okay, we really gotta stop comparing it to Cars. This is just our opinions. We are so sorry, everybody. Let's start with the plot. After Earth has been destroyed, yeah, it's literally been destroyed due to bad environment and waste. These robots called WALL-E are cleaning up while the humans are gone. And they meet Eve, and then WALL-E wants to make steamy love. I mean, robots have steam, right? I know, I'm an idiot. And over the course of the movie, they start to feel relationship. And then later on WALL-E shows Evie the plan, and then she just goes into this mode, and I really just miss Eve. Like this part's just kind of filler the entire time when she's in sleep mode, I guess. And then WALL-E goes into space, and then we see obese humans. Obesity is no laughing matter. But over the course of the movie, WALL-E and Eve just start to grow closer and closer. And then they have to go send a plan so that everyone can go home, yeah. WALL-E then dies, and then at like the last 10 minutes, we have this beautiful scene with like little to no words. This movie's great. Still don't like it as much as Cars though. Going above Ratatouille but below Cars. Up is a good movie. Yeah, that's about it. This really was not necessarily one of our favorite Pixar movies. People are always just like, oh, look at the opening. It's like the best things Pixar's ever made. And they're just completely indifferent to the rest of the movie. But I don't think the movie's bad. Far from it. It's just decent. It stars Carl Fredricksen. After his wife dies after they wanted to go to Paradise Falls, he decides to just make his house fly with balloons. What a good concept. Can't believe it was done in 2009. Figured it would have been done years ago. But turns out he also runs into this kid, Russell. Yeah, that's his name, Russell. And he just joins him, and then they find a rare bird and also a dog who wants to kidnap the bird. And they find Charles Muntz, who Carl just idolized, but he's a twist villain. Oh no. Now let me just get this out of the way. Is it me or do the character designs feel a little strange? Not bad, just they don't blend in with the more realistic looking backgrounds. It feels a little off-putting. Still, animation's good, especially like how animated. It's really nice. And it's decently funny, and there's some stakes, and the opening is the best thing about the movie. Probably not gonna watch it for a long time, but I'd still rather watch it than another movie that we'll get to. Toy Story 3. The original finale to this saga. And it sure would have been perfect. Because, like, the animation, like, it keeps getting better and better. We don't know how PIXAR does this, but they do. Alright, so here's the cool plot. So Annie has eventually now grown up, and the toys think that he's planning to throw them away. But then they escape and they now go to daycare. But Woody wants to go back, so he abandoned his friends just so he could go with Annie. But then he gets lost, and now Bunny now takes him and then takes her to her house. And then Woody has an idea that we'll get to a little bit later. Then he needs to go home, but then he discovers the truth in a really emotional moment. And it turns out that Lotso is evil at the daycare, despite the fact that it looked all nice before. So now Woody goes back, they have an epic climax, like, oh my god, and the ending. Just pure timeless. Like, if you've seen the climax and the ending, you know exactly what we are talking about. And with that, this was the true finale of PIXAR. They never had a single truly awful movie. Or did they? Oh yes, people. We finally made it. Cars 2. The punching bag of the PIXAR saga. The one everyone hates. They rip it apart. They destroy it. They blow it up. They tear it to pieces. And does it deserve it? Yes and no. Because if you think about it, this movie is over the top. It is so bonkers, so bizarre, so insane, so fundamentally broken, you cannot fix it. It's kind of fun to laugh at. And everyone else, they always put it at the bottom. For us, we think it's better than any other mediocre sequel we got, which we will explain in a little bit. And yes, despite the fact you all know, love, and hate it, and all that good jazz, I'll explain the plot anyway. Being a sequel, it takes place after the first movie, although like 90% has nothing to do with the first movie. And then we cut to Finn McMissile, who is the most incompetent spy you've ever seen. So McQueen and Mater go in this cool World Grand Prix Cup, but then Mater gets in a little mix-up of where Finn and Holly mistake him as a spy, and then Mater acts like a horrible friend, and so McQueen rightfully just gets angry at him, and then Mater just leaves. What a fantastic friend. But then Mater becomes a spy, I guess, and then all these wacky shenanigans happen that have nothing to do with the first movie. Now this plot is so complex and broken, it is so insane that it does not feel boring despite what everyone else says. Do not get us wrong, this movie is awful, but kind of for both the right and wrong reasons. Like, it feels like an accomplishment. It's basically the Shark Tale, the Lorax 2012. Movies that are so broken, they're not boring in the slightest. And because of that, congratulations, Cars 2. You screwed up big time. I mean, there possibly can't be a movie worse than Cars 2, right? Right? Now, for the longest time, I genuinely thought that there were multiple people along with me that would think that Brave is the worst Pixar movie. However, tends to be second or third worst. Still not an honorable placement to be in. It's underwhelming, to say the least, because I despise this movie. I really do. So, I'll enlighten you on why Brave is my least favorite Pixar movie, and easily my least favorite animated movie of all time. Okay, the plot. What can I say that hasn't already been said? It's convoluted. We go for a mother and daughter relationship, which doesn't hook me very well because these characters aren't necessarily likable. Unlike Finding Nemo, where they're not necessarily flawless, but you can understand their struggles. But here, I just don't like them. So, they just suck. The relationship just sucks. And then it gets even worse with Mother Bear. Let's move on to the characters now, shall we? I hate them all. Let's start with Merida. Hands down, the worst Pixar protagonist. And probably among one of, if not the worst, Pixar protagonist ever created. Is she likable? No. Is she charming? No. Are her actions justified? No. Nothing like that. Nothing at all. Now, don't get me wrong, jerk characters can work. Lightning McQueen is the biggest example, but for the most part, you actively see him getting taken down a peg, and he slowly changes over time. It just doesn't happen randomly. He's got people who are willing to help him. And besides, at least he's funny. He's charming. Merida isn't. And Queen Eleanor, she's just a perfectionist. The triplets, useless and unfunny. The dad, responsible for probably the worst joke in Pixar's catalog. And the villain. Okay, let me dedicate some time to him. He's barely a villain. Do not even think about using that pun. I'm going to say barely, but not take any bear puns. Now, he is not a villain. He is an obstacle. Now, let's say a villain would mainly be the one progressing the plot forward, regardless on how much screen time they have. The villain is the one making the conflict happen. The hero is the one trying to stop the conflict. That is the element of storytelling. But when you take away them progressing the plot, they're just more or less an obstacle. They're not important. Because I ask you, who was the one who turned Queen Eleanor into a bear? Merida. Who was the one who invaded the villain's lair unannounced while the villain was doing nothing wrong? Merida. Who shot first? Merida. She's the one causing all these elements. Oh yeah, wait. Who is the one who broke the tapestry? Merida. She's the villain. She's the one causing all these elements. And you might as well say, oh, McQueen's the villain. Kind of, but he's just a bear. And they invaded his home, so he got angry. So yeah, he's not the villain. Merida is. He's just an obstacle. Also, the ending is just really rushed and bland. And finally, my two more points. The animation and humor. The animation, it's terrible. It is genuinely the ugliest looking Pixar movie. It makes things like Toy Story and Bugs Life look like Avengers Endgame by comparison. The backgrounds are just so muddy, colorless, and bland, and the character designs look horrible. And there's so much fog, there's no color, there's no life to this movie. And finally, the humor. It's not funny at all. This movie was supposed to be taken seriously, but these childish baby jokes just make it feel juvenile and bland. The Incredibles is such a smart movie because it does not put butts in the movie to be funny. But I know this movie had a troubled production. But troubled production does not always mean your movie is bad. Toy Story 2 took 7 months to make, I'm pretty sure. Let me know if I'm wrong on that one, but I'm pretty sure it's 7. And look at that. 100% on Rotten Tomatoes and objectively the best in terms of critical score. So have I changed your mind yet? Probably not. Go on. Continue to say Cars 2 is the worst. Brother, you do the mediocre sequels. Monsters University. We didn't need this. We absolutely did not need this. This, I believe, was the beginning of an era of where Pixar would become a shell of their former selves when it came to sequels. Like, yeah, Cars 2 technically started it, but they could have learned from Cars 2, right? They didn't, but enough about Cars 2. The plot is basically a prequel to Monsters University, although this whole movie is ruined by that one line from the first movie. A joke line ruins this movie. But the plot is basically in the past, Mike wanted to be scary, so he goes to Monsters University to become scary. Both he and Sully, who were at first rivals in this movie, they screw up and now they have to go to the scare games to prove themselves worthy. I thought this was university, not Olympic Games. And I wouldn't be offended by this if it wasn't for the fact that at the last 20 minutes of the movie, it's actually good. So Pixar's telling us that they could have made a good movie, but they just chose not to. I don't understand. Why is this movie just absolute mediocre, and then out of nowhere it becomes good? It becomes what Pixar wants to be. And the characters, I guess Mike and Sully are still a little enjoyable, although the side characters are just haha funny side characters, please laugh. And everyone else is just there to make Mike's art quote unquote depressing. And this is not the only time Pixar will do this. Okay, so Inside Out is a weird one to talk about, mainly because it just has a lot of questions regarding its universe. Like, for example, why do the base marketable characters are only in Riley, but everyone else behaves like their prospective character? Like, the mom has, like, glasses, and the dads have, like, the beards. Like, what makes Riley so special? I don't get it. And why can the islands destroy in the first place? Why would your emotions leave you? Like, if you just can't feel happy at all, how does that work? Is this the only time this happened? This world is honestly more confusing than the Cars universe. And that's a freaking milestone. You made something more confusing than the Cars universe. It's just every time I watch this movie, I have so many questions. But enough with all of that. Let's go to the plot. Okay, so when Joy and Sadness get separated out of headquarters, they gotta get back and they meet Bing Bong. I like the animation though. I mean, looks better than most Pixar movies that came after Toy Story 3. Honestly, like, this looks better than Toy Story 3. Like, why did it take you like 5 years to do that? Most of these look like garbage. Oh my god. Honestly, it's just nice to have a good movie. But yeah, there's not much else to say. It's funny. I like the characters. The Good Dinosaur. This movie is notorious for being absolutely boring, and who can blame them? The plot is just dinosaur go home. That's literally the whole plot. It's not unique at all. Heck, this entire movie, it just feels like a tech demo. That's all it is. It's just new ways to show their beautiful landscapes, and yes, the landscapes look nice, although the character designs are weird. Arlo looks like Yoshi if they removed all the charm, and speaking of which, Arlo is a fine protagonist. He's not unbearable, but he's not great. Dad dies because Lion King. We have Tomboy and siblings who are just there to make our main character struggle, and that's about it. Seriously, there's not all too much to say, given of how nothing this movie is. I can't make it longer without adding filler, so you're just gonna have to live with this. Moving on. Finding Dory, another mediocre sequel. I think you're starting to notice a pattern here. And this one, I guess, is a little bit better than Monsters University, but kind of just like that one, it's so mediocre and so forgettable. I really don't have all that much to talk about. Like, for some of these, I just have nothing because they're that mediocre. But I guess it's like Dory find parents. That's the plot. Just Dory find parents and meet characters with disabilities. Although these two movies have one thing in common that makes them even worse than Cars 2. Not as if they were already worse enough, but it makes it even worse. They can be serious and depressing They just rarely choose to do so because they want to appeal to only the little kiddies instead of doing what they used to do all those years ago. And there's a certain sequel that really drives that point in. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. But yeah, there really isn't all that much to talk about this movie. Let's just hope the next one is good. Cars 3 deserves so much better than what other people say about it or how they treat it. It has only a 75% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I will not accept it. Everyone just keeps neglecting it because it's a Cars movie and nothing more. Therefore, they always suck. It's a Cars movie. They just say that again and again. It's a Cars movie. Therefore, it sucks. Forever. And I will not accept this. Everyone keeps calling these movies soulless, and not even the second one is soulless. It's the other sequels I talked about that were soulless. Those being Monsters University and Finding Dory. Those sequels are soulless because they're not even trying to do anything new or special or anything like that. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about why Cars 3 is really good. And unlike the other sequels, I actually have stuff to talk about. Oh my god, we're off to a good start. So it continues right after the first movie, pretending the second one doesn't even exist. This movie's trying its hardest and everyone else treats it like crap. But and one day, a brand new racer, Jackson Storm, enters in and completely just wins every race. And because of this, mostly everyone retires. Well, everyone except Lightning McQueen. But on one night, he pushed himself too hard and caused himself to crash. And this one moment made him realize it's the dog story all over again. He'll be rejected by the racing world all around him. No one will love him anymore. They'll quit on him. And when he gets put back together, they'll say, he's history. Move out of the way for the next rookie standing in line. There's a lot left in him, and he never got a chance to show them. And so because of this, McQueen, he decides he's not gonna let that happen all over again. He has one more chance. So he's gonna improve his game and keep his career alive. So McQueen and his new trainer Cruz Ramirez, yes, I was able to pronounce that, or at least I think, go off and do some training, which it doesn't go all that well. And somehow, this movie does a betrayal twist right. Normally there's oh yeah, oh, this is your fault, no, this is your fault. I say something really awful, oh, now I leave. Here, the character getting neglected at, they are not gonna have any of it. They immediately break up. And besides, the separation isn't for all that long. And it makes sense this time. Oh, and also Mater now has a role, and he's not annoying. He's actually good. Why do people hate this movie? What, is it because of 2? Oh, shut up! And after more training and some more beautiful lines, McQueen finally makes it to the race. But yeah, after reflecting on his journey, he realized that his time has come. He decides when he's done, which referenced that one line he said earlier in the movie. And because of this, he doesn't just give up. He gives this opportunity to Cruz. And now McQueen is the master and Cruz is the rookie. And the trilogy finally comes to a set. Now, this movie is incredibly story-based. What that means is that they're focusing on the story and the characters and nothing else. They're focusing on making art. And you know what the best part is? Despite of how really good this movie is, it's only gonna get better. Coco. Oh my god, this movie is an absolute masterpiece. This movie is great. It is phenomenal. Now, I won't go into too much detail since, like, who doesn't love Coco, especially with that final scene. But I might as well explain the plot anyway. So, there's a young boy named Miguel who, unlike his family, actually likes music, but her family hates it because of lore. I'm so incredibly sorry. Please forgive me. And so because of this, he tries to find a guitar, and then he actually teleports to the nether, the land of the dead. Which looks really creative. Only PIXAR can make places look this unique. Just look at how colorful this movie is, with all the oranges and purples and greens and reds and blues and all over the place. And the skeletons, they look great. They have all these cool little tricks, and it just gives more expression to them. And so he tries to find his uncle, Ernesto de la Cruz. And so he goes on with this guy named Hector, who says that he and Ernesto go way back. And so they go on a fun little journey, and then it's revealed that Ernesto was evil the whole time, and it's actually smart. And so we have one epic climax later, a bunch of beautiful emotional scenes later, the movie comes to another incredible satisfying end. This movie is absolutely brilliant. I can't wait to see what they do next! Oh my god, a sequel to The Incredibles? I just don't believe it! It's actually here after 14 years! Let's see what we got!
You've got to, so that we can be supers again.
So you can have that choice.
All right, yes, so I can have that choice. And you'll do a great job.
That was excruciating to watch.
Oh. Great. We're back to the mediocre sequels. And I guess this one's the best one, but at the same time, it's also the most disappointing, and in some ways the most offensive. But it's not as boring as the last two, I guess? Maybe? I don't know. This film is just not worth your time. We waited 14 years for literally the most mediocre sequel ever. I won't talk about the plot, but it's too similar to the first movie that I'm just gonna summarize like this. It's the first movie, but with the two main roles swapped. No, I'm not joking, just go watch the movie yourself. I'm not talking about the plot, because that way I'd just be talking about the first movie again. That's basically what it is. But believe it or not, this is not the worst sequel, nor is it Cars 2. Oh no. There is one so offensive, so idiotic, it makes you all look like hypocrites for anyone that says that Cars 2 is the worst every single time. What is that? Well, I really wanted to put this at the bottom. Really, I did. It unfortunately isn't. But don't get me wrong. This movie is absolute pain, suffering, idiocy, insulting. So many negative words I just can't describe. Gaming Magic 13 has already made an analysis, so I'll just go ahead and simplify it. The plot just constantly relies on characters getting lucky or unlucky. No cause and effect, no cool thinking, no problem solving, no using your brain. It's just luck. That's all it is. That's it. Its message is just entirely evil. It's insulting the disabilities, the ones that want to kill themselves, what it means to love, what it means to hate, and it insults theories. And finally, it took the old characters, threw them out in favor for new characters. Well, just we'll get back to some of the old characters later, but for now, let's talk about their new characters. And it's one of the things I like to call the OC saga. It's basically a saga I'm working on where I just insult new characters that they insult the old ones. So I'm giving them the same treatment. If the new characters insult the old ones, I'll beat the loving crap out of them. I will give these OCs no mercy, but that's for another time. Let's just talk about the new characters. We have Ducky and Bunny, who are just the comic reliefs who do literally nothing at all. We have Duke Kaboom, who, again, barely does anything and insults Jesse's and Lotso's backstories. We have Forky, who's more of a plot device more than anything. And we have Bo, who you may think is not a new character, but they just make her pretend that she's Bo in favor of gaslighting you into thinking that she was always like this. They basically just changed her entirely into an OC. Also, she's abusive to Woody. Speaking of which, they reverted Jessie all the way back to the way she was in Toy Story 2, so her development meant nothing in that TV special Toy Story of Terror. Like, her journey just meant nothing at all. Buzz Lightyear is now an absolute idiot, and he forces himself to push the buttons on his chest to tell him anything, and he just values that more than Woody. And to make it clear, Buzz was not always this way. He never was. Woody abandons all of his family to go with a girl who's abused him and never loved him whatsoever. I wish I could make this analysis longer, but I can't. We'd be here all day, and I'd just be repeating the same thing as Gaming Magic 13. And yet, it still got good receptions. Is Cars 2 that insufferable? You really care more about that more than the Toy Story series? You just care about one bad sequel. The other sequels, they're scot-free, despite them being worse in terms of intentions, and probably overall as a whole. And meanwhile, good sequels like Cars 3 just get ignored because it's a Cars movie. It can't be good. I'll eventually make a future video on why this fandom has ruined Pixar, and I'll eventually, hopefully, make a series on how to fix Toy Story 4. But it's most likely not all bad, because Toy Story 5 can still save the franchise as long as the Pixar fandom agrees this time. Just give it another chance, please. And with that, we only have 5 films left to go.
Wow. Yeah. Does anyone else just kind of forget this movie even exists? Because I have over and over and over again. It's just such a nothing movie. No impact. No memorability. It's just a movie that's there. The plot is just two elfling brother guys gotta save their dad, and they go through a bar and the cars or something. Yeah, this plot is just nothing. Animation's fine. Just there's nothing to talk about with this movie. I've forgotten everything that's happened in it. Part of the segment's so short, it's just who even remember this movie even exists?
Soul, literally the only good movie in the 2020s for Pixar. At this point, you're probably tired of us talking about the plots, or we just forgot to, but it's either these movies are really boring, or we just be repeating stuff we said from another movie on the list. But for this, I think it's okay to talk about the plot. So it stars our main character, Joe Gardner, who just got a brand new gig, but then at the worst possible time, he dies. And because he doesn't want to die, he breaks the rules of death. And also this guy named 22, wow, what a creative name, he goes along with him, random shenanigans happen, and then they get back in, and then turns out that they swap bodies. And now they go through more stuff. It was like, I don't want to leave. You give me my body back. Get back here. And even though there is a betrayal twist, it gets interrupted. Yay! And we get honestly a unique message to enjoy all of the little things in life. Like, every second matters. Unless you're watching a bad movie. Also, hey, my bro's back. I wonder how that long break I wonder how that long break was for him. I don't think he's gonna like his last 2 segments.
Luca is such a disappointing movie to talk about. I was going into this movie expecting it to be great. Great art style, slice of life, reviews telling me that it's actually good, further proving that this could be some kind of renaissance for PIXAR. I was genuinely excited going into this movie, and with my brother having prior experience with this movie and actually loving it, I thought I was gonna love it too. And then we both came out disappointed. Now, for multiple times throughout the movie, I desperately wanted to like it, but it copies off so much and just has so many tropes that it just becomes infuriating. Like, third act breakup, jealousy love plot, like love triangle, I think. Villain being super petty, Little Mermaid, and overprotective parents. It hits so many of those same marks, it becomes noticeable, and the viewing experience becomes a little bit annoying. Now again, art style, great, but that's it. Outside of maybe a few funny jokes, and the climax is decent, and the ending was nice. But that's it. It's just such an infuriating movie. Going below A Bug's Life.
Turning red was nothing but pure pain and agony. It is going below the Good Dinosaur. It's like the 3rd worst. Like 20 seconds into the movie, we knew we were in for something painful. I do not want to talk about the plot. I really don't. It's just one that you have to see to believe. You probably won't believe me when I say that it is nothing but pure pain. Like, yes, it looks nice, but it does so much it hurts. That's how you can sum up this movie. It's just way too much that it hurts. It's basically just Pixar's equivalent to furries. They even say drugs and perverts. You can definitely tell that this is definitely a movie for kids and not furries. This movie has so many uncomfortable moments. This movie's just uncomfortable. It's just awful. It's pain. We had to take like 6 breaks. That's how absolutely painful and destroying it was. Like, it's awful. It's really awful. It's really awful. But now, we only have one more left. Take it away, my brother.
This is it. The last one. The final hurdle of this ranking until a new film comes out. Lightyear is an infuriating movie to discuss. It really is. Because it's just such a nothing movie. I felt nothing watching it. I wasn't infuriatingly bored like I was Good Dinosaur, yet I wasn't having such a so bad it's good time like Cars 2. It was just a soulless, bland, mid-tier, dull experience. Okay, so the plot is Lightyear, he messes up on a mission, and now him and the other Rangers are forced to inhabit this new planet, and they try to go home, so Lightyear goes into hyperspace multiple times, but travels years into the future, until there's a bad guy named Zurg, and they gotta go stop him. But it turns out it's his dad. No, I'm just kidding. It's him from 50 years in the future. And they joke about this line too. What? So, are you just actively ignoring Toy Story 2? Is Toy Story 2 not canon? Just for that, I want to put it way lower, but outside of that, it's just not offensively bad. It's just going right in the middle of the ranking. At least it's just not insulting. Outside of that, like, animation's fine, characters are fine, they're not annoying, but they're not memorable. The villain does suck though, but I guess the cat was fine, he was pretty good. Oh my god, this was torture. And we end it with just so much mediocrity. Well, here we go.
Now we're done. Now it's time to get to the ranking. In 3, 2, 1. Number 26, Brave. Number 25, Toy Story 4. Number 24, Turning Red. Number 23, The Good Dinosaur. Number 22, Monsters University. Number 21, Finding Dory. Number 20, Incredibles 2. Number 19, Cars 2. Number 18, Luca. Number 17, Onward. Number 16, A Bug's Life. Number 15, Lightyear. Number 14, Soul. Number 13, Up. Number 12, Finding Nemo. Number 11, Inside Out. Number 10, Cars 3. Number 9, Ratatouille. Number 8, WALL-E. Number 7, Cars. Number 6, Coco. Number 5, Monsters Inc. Number 4, Toy Story 1. Number 3, Toy Story 3. Number 2, The Incredibles. Number 1, Toy Story 2. So, after about almost a year of planning this, I have to ask myself and my bro, was it worth it? Well, kind of. We were happy to revisit some old classics, but we also realized of how mediocre Pixar's gone over the years. But they can still change. It's not too late. Let's just hope their future will bring them back to the classic days. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.